Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on a windy day. It's always windy down here at the Breakwater District, but I'd like to welcome you all here today to the Breakwater District at Ogden Point here in Victoria, British Columbia, for this important announcement. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. I'd like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Lekwungen peoples, specifically the Esquimalt Nation and Songhees Nation, and we are proud and honored to have both of these nations on our board. My name is Ian Robertson. I am the CEO of the Greater Victoria Harbour Authority, and pardon the windy notes here. And it's my pleasure to introduce Canada's Minister of Transport, the Honourable Omar Alghabra, who is here to provide an update about cruise ships in Canadian waters. Before I introduce the Minister, I'd like to acknowledge two of our board members, Board Chair Christine Willow and Vice Chair Mark Mawhinney. Thank you for joining us here today. We are also joined today by the British Columbia Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, the Honourable Rob Fleming, and the Mayor of Victoria, Lisa Helps. Anna Poustie, on behalf of the Victoria Cruise Industry Alliance, will also provide a couple of remarks. I would like to thank everyone for joining us here today on what is Canada's busiest cruise ship port of call. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Minister Alghabra. Minister Alghabra, welcome. Over to you.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Ian. Thank you very much, Anna, for that quick tour, and I'm delighted to be here with Minister Fleming and Mayor Helps. Thank you all for welcoming me and my team here. Let me first start by acknowledging that we are on the land of the traditional territory of the Esquimalt and Songhees First Nations. When my team and I were planning this event, we were wondering where to do this announcement. And I could say that we couldn't think of a better place than being here with you in Victoria at this terminal. I know many of you have been wondering, when will we be able to see ships here again? And as you may remember, the last time we made an announcement about cruise ship travel, we said that these vessels would not be allowed in Canadian waters until February 28th of 2022. Now, thanks to the extraordinary work Canadians have done getting vaccinated and following public health advice to get through the global COVID-19 pandemic, our government is now ready to announce that we are accelerating the timeline for resuming cruise ship activity. I'm announcing today that cruise ships will be allowed in Canadian waters as of November 1st of this year. Les croisières pourront aller au Canada à partir de 1er Novembre. This means that the cruise ship operators would be able to prepare and be ready for full operations by the start of the 2022 cruise season, if they can fully comply with public health requirements. It also means that our timing will be aligned with our American neighbors. And I want to emphasize that this is possible because of how Canadians have responded to the conditions of the global pandemic. Every person who rolled up a sleeve to get vaccinated has helped us get to this point today. The cruise ship industry normally represents more than $4 billion annually for the Canadian economy. It is vital for our country's tourism sector. Ce secteur est essentiel pour notre économie. It is vital for every coastal communities and port cities that welcome cruise ship visitors. And I'm happy to deliver this good news here today, right here in Victoria. But we must remain vigilant. Nous devons rester vigilants. As more people become vaccinated and as the situation continues to see steady improvement, our government will continue to work with our partners to help ensure that Canadians remain safe and secure. Today's announcement will depend on the public health situation at the time, especially in communities where cruise ships would dock. And for now, it is important to acknowledge that the global pandemic is not over yet. Our government continues to advise Canadians to avoid all travel on cruise ships outside the country, but we are confident about the future. Nous sommes confiants pour l'avenir. And as we build back better, we look forward to the welcome sights of cruise ships here behind me, along our coasts as well, and our ports throughout the country for the 2022 seasons. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Minister Alghabra. Now I'd like to invite the British Columbia Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, the Honourable Rob Fleming, to say a few words. Minister Fleming.
Thank you very much, and good morning. It's wonderful to be here at Ogden Point this morning on the traditional territories of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations, and it's particularly wonderful to be here to share in great news. News for the cruise ship industry, the tourism industry in British Columbia, in a pandemic time where we have lived with uncertainty for the last 15 to 18 months. And I know today's announcement from Minister Alghabra, and thank you very much, Minister, for coming up with, for having the responsibility or the burden, depending on which day it is, of coming up with a pan-Canadian response that not only works for British Columbia's cruise ship industry, but works for Quebec's and works for Nova Scotia's and works for New Brunswick's as well. And your government has shared the same approach as ours in terms of having a science-led approach in developing protocols for industries like the cruise ship industry to operate safely. And we certainly welcome the news today based on the evidence, based on the public health officials, based on our Centers for Disease Control, of being able to resume a strong 2020-22 cruise ship season. This is important for British Columbians here. We have the strongest cruise ship economy in the country. Thousands and thousands of people's jobs and livelihoods are attached to a strong and vibrant cruise ship industry. Suppliers, small business people, longshore cruise ship industry employees, caterers, you name it, the list is long of people whose incomes that support their families are attached to this industry. And today's news indeed gives tremendous certainty. Mayor Helps has been an excellent partner in advocating the approach that has been announced by the federal government today. We certainly want to thank Dr. Henry, working with Dr. Tam, and her counterparts in public health for working with the U.S. CDC on their cruise ship guidelines. And again, I'm confident, based on the track record here in British Columbia and our ability to keep businesses opening safely throughout the pandemic, that the cruise ship industry is going to be part of our economic rebound and the tourism economy going forward. So this is a day to celebrate. This is a day to thank all Canadians and British Columbians for the sacrifices they've made, because as we've looked out for one another, we can all enjoy a return to normalcy and to jobs and incomes and livelihoods that are part of every industry in a diverse economy here. So thank you very much, Ian, for hosting us here today. Thank you for your effective advocacy, and thank you to everyone for attending today's announcement.
Thank you, Minister Fleming. Our next speaker will be the Mayor of Victoria, Lisa Helps. Mayor Helps.
Thank you, Ian. Welcome to Victoria, Minister. We're glad that you chose our fine city, busiest port in the country, and one of the most beautiful cities in the country. I know you can't say that as Minister, but I certainly can as Mayor. I would also, as have the others, like to acknowledge that we are on the homelands of the Lekwungen-speaking people, and really want to laud the Greater Victoria Harbour Authority for their engagement with First Nations. As Ian said, both member nations sit on the board, and when this site is fully developed, whenever that happens in the future, it'll be a really, there'll be a lot of focus on Indigenous culture and heritage. This is a really exciting and important announcement today. It's important to our local economy. There are so many, and Minister Fleming pointed this out, so many people whose livelihoods have been impacted negatively by the fact that these ships aren't coming in. And the economy more generally has been impacted, both the tourism economy and the greater economy. When people come here on cruise ships, they get off, they spend the day, and they say, this is the kind of place where I'd like to come back to. And then they book another vacation. They come and stay for a week or 2 weeks. But more than that, they see Victoria as a potential place to invest, to start a business. So while the visits are short, people just spend the day here, it has ripple effects into the economy for the longer term. And that's something that we've really been missing with the cruise ships not able to come. There is not often consensus in this region about many things, but I would just like all of you to know, and hopefully this had some impact on the announcement today, that all 13 mayors, plus the Songhees and Esquimalt chiefs, wrote to the federal government asking for them to allow cruise and to provide certainty. So that is a testimony not only to me and the mayors, but also to the First Nations chiefs, that all 15 of us came together and said this is important to our economy. So thank you for listening to that call. And finally, in terms of certainty, not only does this announcement today provide certainty for the cruise industry and all the jobs that go with it, it provides certainty for the kind of leadership that the Greater Victoria Harbour Authority is showing, wanting to make this port here at the Breakwater District the most green cruise port in North America. Certainty allows them to continue their investments in shore power, certainly allows the continuation of more double-decker electric buses. Certainty allows this industry and all the industries to support it to invest in a green future. So thank you for providing certainty, thank you for coming to Victoria, and thanks for this great announcement today.
Thank you, Mary Helps. Our final speaker today will be Anna Poustie of the Victoria Cruise Industry Alliance. Anna, podium's yours.
I work down here on this terminal, so I knew that paper was not going to work in this wind. I just want to take a moment to thank everyone for being here today, to Minister Alghabra for taking the time to come to Victoria to make this announcement in a place that has felt the loss of cruise so deeply. I am the chair of the Victoria Cruise Industry Alliance. I represent BC Ports for the Tourism Industry Association of Canada's National Cruise Committee, and I'm also the operations manager of Pacific Northwest Transportation. So I'm lucky enough to call this space my office. This is where I spend my summer cruise seasons. And so for those of us that haven't attended an organized event in over a year now, this feels busy and this feels normal. But as I stand here today and I look out at this empty terminal, I'm reminded that it's a Thursday. And on regular Thursdays in seasons past, we're all down here on this terminal welcoming one of our largest ships, the Ovation of the Seas. And this place is alive in a way that I know myself and so many of my colleagues have missed being a part of. From the pilot boats taking the BC pilots out to greet the ship, to the tugs closely behind, to the highly skilled longshore labor on the pier handling the ship's arrival, to the experienced tour guides, drivers, and volunteers waiting to show our city off. It has been a difficult time, and we've been waiting for this message, so a huge thank you that this signal is being sent. The problem with the phone is that the screen goes dark. I have spent every day this past year and a half speaking with members of industry on how this pandemic and the loss of cruise has affected them, their businesses, and their families. The financial impact has been crushing, and it has affected all of us differently, from small businesses that weren't sure they would survive to see another ship, to those who have had to continue with difficult layoffs. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our government for the continued financial support through the wage and rental subsidies. Many of our members utilized them, and it kept them afloat during this time. I'd also like to speak to the emotional toll this has taken on so many of us. We have all learned to live and adapt to an ever-changing environment, and we have all come to live in a state of unknown, and that has meant fear and stress and anxiety for all of us. And today, we can put that behind us, we now know. We know that crews will be welcomed back. Our cruise partners know that their ships will be welcomed back to our ports, and our businesses know that they will be back to work. We greatly respect and admire the work our government has done to keep Canadians safe during this pandemic, and we know difficult decisions have been made along the way. We share that same priority, and as we welcome crews back, we will continue to work with our local government and our health authorities to see crews come back strong and safe. Thank you all for coming today, and I look forward to having you all back when we welcome the first ship in.
Thank you. Just a few closing comments from me. I think on behalf of our organization, our industry partners, and all levels of government, both federal, provincial, and municipal, I'd like to thank them for their commitment to ensuring that crews will be welcomed back in Canada. And I especially look forward, along with Anna and a bunch of us, to welcoming the first passengers and crew back to our wonderful capital city on the Pacific Coast. I'll now turn it over to Alison St. Jean at the podium to moderate questions, Q&A with Minister Alghabra and Minister Fleming. Alison.
Thank you. We will now open the floor to questions from the media. Merci. Nous passons maintenant à la période de questions. So we would invite media with questions to head over here. So we ask that you identify yourself in the media outlet you represent. Alors, s'il vous plaît, commencez votre question en vous identifiant et nommant l'organisme de presse que vous représentez. So we'll proceed to our first question.
My name is Richard Zussman. I work for Global News. Minister Alghabra, what assurances do you have from the leadership in the United States that they are going to get rid of this bill that's before the Senate now that would bypass British Columbia as a destination for cruise?
Richard, thank you for the question. Look, we're very much interested in protecting the industry. We know, as I mentioned in my speech, the industry has a significant economic benefit to our communities, to communities like here in Victoria, and we're committed to working with our friends in the United States to ensure that we maintain business as usual. I realize that there are attempts in Congress, but we're working with the administration, we're working with congressmen and women on repeating the benefits that the industry gets not only here in Canada but in the U.S. By stopping here. So we're working hard through our embassy, through our officials, myself, through our department, on ensuring that we maintain business as usual.
And I understand this is only part of your portfolio, but a big part of this as well is opening up the borders between the United States and Canada. How quickly should we expect to see those borders open for recreational travel in terms of helping ease some of the impacts that, we'll see not having cruise here until likely next spring?
So we've committed to Canadians to make decisions when it comes to travel or any other public health measures based on science and data. We continue to consult with our officials, public health officials, Dr. Tam included. And as you know, we've announced phase 1 of opening our borders to fully vaccinated eligible travelers on July 5th. We are working, and we've also committed to Canadians that as we are reopening, we want to do it in a phased approach, in a prudent approach to ensure that it's done safely. Soon we'll be announcing our next phase of reopening. As far as discussions with the U.S. on the land border, that is ongoing. Minister Blair is leading these conversations. I don't have anything to announce right now, but I know these discussions are ongoing.
Oh, hi, Rob Fleming with CTV News. My questions are similar, I guess you'd say. The Coho and the Clipper ferry that connect Washington State and Victoria have been grounded for 16 months. Does today's announcement have any bearing on that?
So the announcement is going to officially restart the cruise ship, open up for cruise ships by November 1st. Now, I know that a lot of the large ships probably won't start until next year. But there might be an opportunity for smaller cruise lines that would come in between. That certainly we're going to work with BC public health officials, with Canadian public health officials on setting what are the standards and the thresholds for what are the measures that are expected of travelers on cruise liners, smaller or larger ones. So we will certainly make these those regulations known by then. So stay tuned for that. But what we're doing today is we're providing certainty to the industry. We're helping them prepare for the upcoming season, prepare the infrastructure, recall employees, maybe start scheduling trips, selling tickets. So we're providing certainty, and I'm looking forward to working with the BC government, with the terminal here, and other industry stakeholders on ensuring that we have a safe restart of the cruise ship season.
Thanks. My follow-up is for the provincial minister, Minister Fleming. I'm wondering, the bill that was temporary that allowed cruise ships to not stop in Victoria passed, and that seemed to catch the government here by surprise. What's your level of confidence that the one that's been proposed to make it permanent will not also pass?
I think I would be wise to not predict what might happen in the U.S. House of Representatives. But what I will say is that the frustration, perhaps, the differences in approach that Canada and the United States have had, there have been significant ones. They have reopened a lot faster than us. They were ahead of us in vaccinations for a period of time. We have now surpassed them. So, the accusation, though, that somehow Canada and British Columbia were being insensitive to Alaska, which I think was perhaps what gave that initial temporary bill momentum, today has been erased by the federal government, by Minister Alghabra, and by the pan-Canadian approach that British Columbia was proud to be a part of.
Hi, I'm Carla Wilson. I'm with the Times Colonist newspaper. I'm wondering what kind of assurances you can give local citizens about the public health regime and security, safety measures that will be coming into place when these cruise ships resume.
So thank you for the question. As I said earlier, we're going to make sure that we coordinate with the local public health agency, with the federal public health agencies, with local stakeholders on ensuring that we have the right and proper measures in place to ensure that that travelers are safe, that the local community is safe. And also, by the way, we're going to have to be vigilant, as I said as well in my opening remarks. We need to learn from what other jurisdictions are experiencing or going through. So I can assure you, we're going to remain committed to Canadians, as we have all along, to ensuring that their safety and health is our #1 priority.
Thank you.
Hi, Minister. Corey Sidaway here from Czech News. My question is regarding who is going to be coming. Prime Minister Trudeau did say that those with double vaccinations would be warmly welcomed when the time is right. Is that who we're going to be welcoming come November 1st?
We will be rolling out the measures soon. As I said, those measures will depend on the public health conditions at the time. So it's prudent for us to ensure that we maintain nimbleness and flexibility as we get closer to the date to ensure that those specific measures are announced beforehand. But right now, as I said, even if what we're doing on the international border with air travelers and land travelers, we are following a prudent, phased approach. Today, we're welcoming eligible travelers who are fully vaccinated and exempting them from quarantine. We soon will be announcing phase 2 for air and land travelers, and the same will apply when cruise ships come back.
Thank you. There are no further questions. Alors, merci. Ceci conclut la période de questions. Ian, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the events for today. Again, I want to thank all of you for coming and enjoying the wind and the sun in this beautiful city and the great news that we have heard here today. Again, Minister Alghabra, thank you for your commitment from the Government of Canada. It's very much appreciated. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.